He thought he controlled every street, every trigger, every single life under his empire. Until the judge's daughter showed up at his headquarters, covered in blood, shaking, holding something that could destroy everything. "Where'd you get this?" he asked only once. And her silence was the answer that started tearing down the biggest mafia empire in New York. Who was he? The boss who never loved. The man who swore to push away any weakness. But what he hated most was exactly what she became. The heart that could destroy what he built with blood. If you've ever fallen for someone the whole world told you was off limits, then you know what he felt that night. This story's already got you hooked. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. Because sometimes you don't choose to love. Love chooses you. He was born with blood on his boots and ice in his eyes. They called him the Reaper on the streets of Brooklyn, not because he killed fast but because he killed smart. Calculated. No witnesses, no traces, no mercy. By the time he turned 14, he'd already watched his older brother get gunned down in broad daylight outside a bodega on 5th Avenue. The cops? They didn't even show up for 20 minutes. That's when he learned the truth. The law didn't protect people like him. The law protected people who could afford it. His name was Vincent Moretti, but nobody dared call him that to his face anymore. Just boss. Or if you were stupid enough, Vin. The last guy who tried that familiar approach ended up floating in the East River with his tongue cut out. Vincent didn't believe in second chances. He didn't believe in forgiveness. And he sure as hell didn't believe in love. By 17 he'd lost his mother to cancer, the kind that eats you from the inside while the hospital bills pile up like body bags. He watched her waste away in that bed, begging for morphine they couldn't afford, while the doctors treated her like she was already dead. That's when something inside him died too. Something soft. Something human. He buried it right next to her grave in Queens, and he swore on her headstone that nobody would ever make him bleed again. Not his body. Not his heart. He built his empire brick by brick, body by body, deal by dirty deal. Started as muscle for the Calabrese family, working collections in Little Italy. But Vincent wasn't just muscle. He was smart. Scary smart. He saw patterns where other guys saw chaos. He knew who to pressure, who to pay off, who to put down. Within 5 years he'd taken over 3 territories, eliminated 2 rival families, and had half the NYPD on his payroll. The other half. They were too scared to touch him. His penthouse overlooked Central Park, 47th floor, bulletproof windows, security tighter than Fort Knox. He had judges in his pocket, politicians on speed dial, and enough dirt on city officials to burn New York to the ground twice over. Every shipment that came through the harbor, every casino that opened in Jersey, every dirty dollar that exchanged hands in the tri-state area, Vincent Moretti took his cut. And if you refused? Well, that's what the Hudson River was for. But here's the thing about building an empire on fear. You can't trust anyone. Not your soldiers, not your captains, not even your own blood. Vincent lived alone in that penthouse, surrounded by expensive art he never looked at and furniture nobody ever sat on. He had women, sure, models, actresses, socialites who threw themselves at him for the thrill, for the danger, for the bragging rights. But he never let them stay. Never let them in. Sex was a transaction like everything else in his world. You get what you pay for, then you leave. He had one rule, carved in stone, non-negotiable. Never mix business with feelings. Feelings made you weak. Feelings made you hesitate. And in his world, hesitation got you killed. Now let's talk about her. Olivia Castellano. 26 years old, honey-colored hair that caught the light like liquid gold, green eyes that could read a room faster than any lawyer, and a last name that carried weight in every courtroom from Manhattan to the Bronx. Her father, Judge Richard Castellano, was the golden boy of the justice system. The reformer. The crusader. The man who'd made his career prosecuting organized crime, putting away mob bosses, dirty cops, and corrupt politicians. The media loved him. The public worshipped him. And Olivia? She was his perfect daughter. Stanford Law graduate, top of her class, volunteer at legal aid clinics, picture-perfect smile for every charity gala and fundraiser. But that was the version the cameras saw. The real Olivia? She was drowning. Suffocating under the weight of her father's expectations, his reputation, his lies. Because here's what nobody knew, what the newspapers would never print, what would destroy the Castellano name forever if it ever got out. Judge Richard Castellano wasn't the hero everyone thought he was. He was bought. Paid for. Aunt Olivia had discovered the truth 6 months ago. She'd been looking for her birth certificate in her father's home office, something she needed for a passport renewal, when she found the locked drawer. Stupid, really? If you're going to hide something, don't make it obvious. She picked the lock with a hairpin, a skill she'd learned from an ex-boyfriend back in college, the kind of guy her father would have had arrested on sight. Inside that drawer she found bank statements, offshore accounts, wire transfers, hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through dummy corporations, shell companies, accounts in the Cayman Islands. And every single deposit coincided with a major case her father had thrown. Charges dropped. Evidence misplaced. Witnesses who suddenly refused to testify. She cross-referenced the dates with court records, news articles, everything she could find. The pattern was undeniable. Her father, the man who'd raised her to believe in justice, in truth, in the law, was dirty. And the money? It was coming from Vincent Moretti's organization. She'd spent 6 months investigating on her own, secretly, carefully. She couldn't go to the police because half of them were probably on Moretti's payroll too. She couldn't go to the FBI because she didn't know who to trust. And she sure as hell couldn't confront her father because he was still her father. The man who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd stayed up with her through law school finals, who'd cried at her graduation. So she did what any desperate, terrified, furious daughter would do. She started digging deeper, following money trails, recording conversations, building a case. Not to expose her father, not yet, but to understand just how deep this corruption went. To figure out who was pulling the strings. That's how she ended up at Vincent Moretti's headquarters that night. She'd been following one of his captains, a guy named Tommy the Knife Rizzo, for 3 weeks. She knew his routine, his hangouts, his usual routes. She'd watched him make pickups, deliveries, collections. But that night something went wrong. Tommy spotted her tail. And when you tail a made guy and he spots you, you don't get a warning. You get a bullet. She'd barely made it out alive. There was blood, not all of it hers, and she'd grabbed something in the chaos, something she didn't even realize she had until she was running through the rain-soaked streets of Brooklyn, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might explode. A USB drive. She'd knocked it off Tommy's dashboard during the struggle, shoved it in her pocket without thinking. And when she realized where her feet had taken her, straight to the glass tower in Midtown where Vincent Moretti ran his empire from the penthouse, she didn't even hesitate. Maybe it was the adrenaline. Maybe it was the rage. Maybe it was 6 months of secrets finally boiling over. She walked right past security, they were too shocked to stop her, and took the elevator to the 47th floor. That's where this story really begins. When the elevator doors opened and Vincent Moretti looked up from his desk to see the judge's daughter standing in his office, covered in blood, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane, holding a USB drive in her trembling hand. Their eyes met, and the whole damn world shifted. Vincent didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even blink. But every single one of his guys reached for their pieces, safeties clicking off like a symphony of death. There were 8 soldiers in that room, all of them ready to paint the walls with her blood on his word. Just one word. That's all it would take. But he raised his hand. Slow. Deliberate. And they froze. Out, he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried the kind of authority that made grown men piss themselves. All of you. Now. Boss, she's... One of them started. I said out. Vincent's eyes never left Olivia's face. And if I hear footsteps in that hallway, if I see a shadow under that door, if anyone so much as breathes too loud on the other side of that wall, you're all swimming with Tommy by morning. Capice? They filed out like ghosts, quick and silent, and the heavy oak door clicked shut behind them. The lock turned. And suddenly it was just the two of them in that massive office, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the glittering skyline of Manhattan, city lights reflecting off the rain that streaked down the glass like tears. Olivia stood there, dripping water and blood onto his imported Italian marble floor. Her white blouse was torn at the shoulder, splattered with crimson. Her designer jeans were ripped at the knee. Her hair hung in wet tangles around her face. She looked like she'd crawled out of hell itself. And she was the most beautiful thing Vincent Moretti had ever seen. "Where'd you get that?" he asked, nodding at the USB drive clutched in her fist. His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came right before a storm. She didn't answer. Just stared at him with those green eyes, wide and wild and filled with something he couldn't quite read. Fear? Maybe. But there was something else underneath. Something that looked almost like defiance. Vincent stood up slowly, buttoning his suit jacket out of habit, and walked around the desk. Each step echoed in the silence. He was tall, 6'3" in his custom Italian shoes, and he knew how to use his size to intimidate. He'd built a career on it. But when he got close to her, close enough to smell the rain and copper penny blood on her skin, she didn't back down. Didn't move. Jess tilted her chin up and met his gaze straight on. Damn. This girl had guts. You know who I am? He asked. Everyone knows who you are, she replied. Her voice was steadier than he expected. Vincent Moretti. The Reaper. The man who owns this city. Then you know walking in here was the stupidest thing you've ever done in your privileged little life. Maybe. She took a shaky breath. Or maybe it was the smartest. He almost smiled. Almost. That right? And why's that, princess? Because you're the only person in New York who can help me. Now that caught him off guard. He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Help you? Sweetheart, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not exactly in the helping business. I'm in the hurting business. And your daddy's been trying to put me away for the better part of a decade. My father, she said, and her voice cracked just a little on that word, is the reason you're still walking free. Silence. Heavy and thick as smoke. Vincent's jaw tightened. Careful now. That sounds an awful lot like an accusation. It's not an accusation. Olivia held up the USB drive, her hands still trembling. It's a fact. And it's all on here. Every payment. Every case he threw. Every deal he made. 6 years worth of corruption. All documented, time-stamped, cross-referenced with bank records and court transcripts. For the first time in 15 years, Vincent Moretti felt something he'd almost forgotten. Genuine surprise. He reached for the drive, but she pulled it back, holding it against her chest like a lifeline. Not yet, she said. First, I need to know something. You're not exactly in a position to negotiate, princess. Did you kill Tommy Rizzo tonight? Vincent's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Something dark. What makes you think Tommy's dead? Because I was there. Because he followed me from my apartment, ran me off the road near the docks, pulled a gun on me. We fought. The gun went off. He went down. And then I ran. She swallowed hard, her next words barely a whisper. I think I killed him. You think? There was blood. So much blood. I didn't stay to check for a pulse. Vincent studied her for a long moment, his mind racing through the possibilities, the implications, the absolute clusterfuck this represented. If she killed Tommy, one of his captains, a May guy, that was a problem. A big problem. The kind that started wars. But if nobody knew she was the one who did it? Tommy's not dead, Vincent said finally. Olivia's knees almost buckled with relief. He's not. Nah. Shot in the shoulder, losing blood like a stuck pig, but he'll live. My guys picked him up about an hour ago. He's getting patched up as we speak. Vincent took a step closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. But here's what I'm trying to figure out, Olivia Castellano. Why were you following one of my guys in the first place? And why the hell did you come here instead of running straight to Daddy Dearest or the cops? She met his gaze without flinching. Because my father's the enemy. And the cops are on your payroll. Which means you're the only person who might actually want the same thing I want. And what's that? The truth. Vincent laughed then. Actually laughed. It was a low, dark sound that held no humor whatsoever. The truth? Princess, the truth is whatever keeps you alive another day. The truth is a commodity just like everything else. Then buy it from me. She thrust the USB drive toward him. Everything on here, it's yours. Every dirty secret my father buried, every case he fixed, every payment he took. You want insurance? Leverage? Ammunition against the people trying to bring you down? It's all right here. And what do you want in return? I want you to tell me who killed Marco Vitali. Vincent's blood turned to ice in his veins. Nobody, and he meant nobody, had spoken that name in his presence for 13 years. Marco Vitali. His older brother. The only person he'd ever loved. The only person whose death still kept him up at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying that day over and over like a horror movie on loop. How do you know that name? His voice was deadly quiet now. Because I found his file. In my father's office, locked in the same drawer as the bank statements. A case that was never opened, never investigated, never solved. Your brother was murdered in broad daylight and nobody was ever arrested. What? Because my father made sure the case disappeared. Vincent's hands clenched into fists so tight his knuckles went white. Your father didn't kill Marco. No. But he covered it up. Which means he knows who did. The room tilted. Everything Vincent had built, everything he'd become, every body he'd buried, it all traced back to that single moment 13 years ago when Marco bled out on a Brooklyn sidewalk while Vincent held him and screamed for help that never came. He'd spent over a decade searching for answers, hunting for the shooter, torturing anyone who might know something. And now this girl, this privileged, naive, beautiful girl, was standing in his office telling him she had the answer. Why? The word came out rough, almost broken. Why are you doing this? Why betray your own father? Olivia's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Because he taught me that justice matters. That the truth matters. That doing the right thing matters even when it's hard. And then I found out everything he taught me was a lie. A single tear traced down her cheek, cutting through the smudges of dirt and rain. So yeah, I'm betraying him. Because he betrayed everything we were supposed to stand for first. Vincent stared at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt something crack in that frozen wasteland where his heart used to be. This was dangerous. This feeling. This connection. You should kill her. Right now. Put a bullet in that pretty head and dump her body where nobody would ever find it. That's what the smart play was. That's what the old Vincent, the one who'd built an empire on ruthlessness and ice, would do without hesitation. But he didn't reach for his gun. Instead he reached for her. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away that tear, and she didn't pull away. Didn't flinch. Just looked up at him with those green eyes that saw too much, knew too much, felt too much. You have no idea what you just started, he whispered. I know exactly what I started, she whispered back. And then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. Wasn't soft. It was desperate and angry and filled with 13 years of grief and 6 months of secrets and a lifetime of loneliness neither of them had ever admitted out loud. Her hands fisted in his shirt. His fingers tangled in her wet hair. And for one perfect, terrible moment, the world outside that office ceased to exist. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. This is gonna get us both killed, he said. I know, she replied. Your father's gonna find out. I know. My guys are gonna think I've gone soft. Have you? He pulled back just enough to look her in the eyes. I don't know. But I'm about to find out. That's when they heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. Multiple sets. Moving fast. And then a voice, loud, angry, familiar. Where the hell is she? Where's my daughter? Vincent's blood ran cold. Your father's here. Olivia's face went white. That's impossible. How did he? Tommy? Vincent cursed under his breath. He must have seen you, called it in to someone on your father's security detail. Damn it. The door handle rattled. Someone pounded on the wood. Moretti. Open this door right now or I'm coming in with half the NYPD behind me. Vincent looked at Olivia. At this girl who'd walked into his office and turned his entire world upside down in the span of 20 minutes. At this girl who just kissed him like she was drowning and he was air. You trust me? He asked. No, she said honestly. Smart girl. He grabbed her hand. Come on. And that's where everything shifts. Because in that moment, before the door explodes open and that man storms in, there's only one question that matters. Is Vincent saving her, or is he damning himself? That kiss wasn't romance. It was a fuse being lit. A decision you don't walk back from. So I want to hear from you. If you were Olivia, would you trust the Reaper? A man who has killed to survive, who has buried secrets deeper than bodies? Or would you take the USB and run, even if it meant turning every monster in New York against you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, what's the move? Trust the devil you kissed or run from the empire you just woke up? Vincent pulled Olivia toward the back wall of his office, his grip firm but not rough. She stumbled in her wet shoes, nearly falling, but he caught her with his other arm, steadying her against his chest for just a second. Their eyes met. And in that brief moment she saw something in his face that terrified her more than Tommy's gun, more than her father's voice on the other side of that door, more than any of this insanity. She saw fear. Vincent Moretti, the man who supposedly felt nothing, feared nothing, was scared. Not for himself. For her. There's a service elevator, he said quietly, nodding toward what looked like solid mahogany paneling. Takes you straight to the parking garage. My car's in space 47, black Audi, keys are in the ignition. Drive to. I'm not leaving you here to face him alone. Olivia. No. She planted her feet, and despite everything, despite the chaos and the blood and the fear coursing through her veins, her voice was steady. I came here for answers. I'm not running until I get them. The pounding on the door got louder. Her father's voice boomed through the thick wood. Vincent Moretti, you have 10 seconds before I blow this goddamn door off its hinges. Vincent's jaw clenched. He looked at the door, then back at her, and something in his expression shifted. Softened. Just for a heartbeat. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the craziest. Can't it be both? Despite everything, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. Yeah, it can. He released her hand, straightened his tie, and walked to the door with the kind of confidence that came from years of staring death in the face and spitting in its eye. When he unlocked it and pulled it open, Judge Richard Castellano nearly fell into the room, his face red with fury, his expensive suit rumpled like he'd gotten dressed in a hurry. Behind him stood 4 uniformed cops and 2 plainclothes detectives Vincent recognized immediately, Detective Mike Sullivan and Detective James Park, both of them on his payroll for the last 6 years. They wouldn't meet his eyes. Smart move. Where is she? Richard demanded, pushing past Vincent into the office. Then he saw her. Standing by the windows, still covered in blood, still holding that USB drive. Olivia. Jesus Christ. What the hell happened to you? Dad? She started, but he was already crossing the room, reaching for her, his hands on her shoulders checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? Did any of these animals? I'm fine. She stepped back from his grip, and Vincent saw the way Richard's face crumpled at her rejection. Nobody hurt me. Then what are you doing here? How did you even? Richard's eyes landed on the USB drive in her hand and his expression changed. The concern vanished, replaced by something colder. Calculating. What is that? You know what it is, Olivia said quietly. The room went silent. Even the cops in the doorway seemed to sense that whatever was about to happen, it was bigger than a simple worried father retrieving his daughter from a mobster's office. Richard's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Liv, sweetheart. Give me the drive. No. Olivia. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. Her hands were shaking again, but her voice stayed strong. I understand that you've been taking money from Vincent Moretti's organization for 6 years. I understand that you've thrown cases, buried evidence, intimidated witnesses. I understand that you're not the man I thought you were. One of the uniformed cops shifted uncomfortably. Detective Sullivan cleared his throat. Richard's face had gone from red to white, all the blood draining like someone had pulled a plug. Everyone out, Richard said, not taking his eyes off his daughter. Now. Sir, we can't just, Sullivan started. I said out. Richard roared, and they scrambled like rats abandoning a sinking ship. The door clicked shut again. Now it was just the 3 of them, father, daughter, and the mob boss caught in the middle of a family implosion. Vincent leaned against his desk, arms crossed, watching this play out with the detached interest of someone watching a car crash in slow motion. But his hand was close to the drawer where he kept his backup piece. Just in case. You went through my files, Richard said. It wasn't a question. I was looking for my birth certificate, Olivia replied. I found something better. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. You have no idea what you've stumbled into. The people involved, the stakes. Then explain it to me. She held up the drive. Explain why the man who taught me to believe in justice is taking blood money. Explain why you've been protecting the same criminals you swore to put away. Explain why Marco Vitali's murder investigation was buried. Vincent pushed off the desk at that, his entire body going rigid. What did you just say? Richard's eyes darted to him, then back to Olivia. Sweetheart, you need to stop talking. Right now. But Olivia wasn't stopping. Not anymore. She'd held these secrets for 6 months, felt them eating her alive from the inside, and now that the dam had broken, there was no putting the water back. Marco Vitali, 19 years old. Shot 4 times outside a bodega in Brooklyn on August 15, 13 years ago. The case was assigned to Detective Robert Chin, but before any real investigation could begin, you had it transferred to a special task force that never filed a single report. The case went cold within 72 hours. No suspects. No witnesses. No justice. Vincent's voice was deadly quiet. You knew. All this time you knew who killed my brother. It's not that simple, Richard started. Who killed him? Vincent roared, and suddenly the calm, collected mob boss was gone, replaced by the 19-year-old kid who'd held his dying brother in his arms and begged God for a miracle that never came. Richard looked at him. Really looked at him. And for just a second, Vincent saw something that looked almost like regret in the judge's eyes. You did. The words hit like bullets. What? Vincent couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what he'd just heard. Not directly, Richard continued, his voice flat, clinical, like he was reciting case facts in a courtroom. But Marco's death was sanctioned by the Calabrese family because they thought you were getting too ambitious. Too smart. Too dangerous. They couldn't kill you directly, your crew was too loyal, you had too much protection. So they went after your leverage. Your weakness. His brother, Olivia whispered, her own face pale with horror. They figured killing Marco would either break you or send you on a revenge spiral that would get you killed. Either way, you'd be neutralized. Richard's hands were shaking now. But they underestimated you. Instead of breaking, you became a monster. You took over the Calabrese territory, eliminated everyone involved, and built an empire on their graves. And by the time anyone realized what you'd become, you were already untouchable. Vincent felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Who gave the order? Vincent. Who? Richard's shoulders sagged. Sal Calabrese. The old boss. But he's been dead for 8 years. You killed him yourself during the takeover. You've already had your revenge, you just didn't know it. The room spun. Vincent grabbed the edge of his desk to steady himself. All this time. All these years of searching, of hunting, of torturing anyone who might know something. And the man responsible had been dead since 2017, killed in a warehouse shootout that Vincent himself had orchestrated. You knew, Vincent said, his voice hollow. You knew all of this and you buried it. Why? Because by the time I found out the truth, you'd already become the biggest threat to organized crime in New York. The FBI wanted you. The DA wanted you. Everyone wanted a piece of the Reaper. Richard laughed bitterly. And then Sal Calabrese approached me through an intermediary. Said he was worried you'd find out he ordered the hit. Said he'd pay good money to make sure certain evidence never surfaced, certain witnesses never testified. He didn't care about going to prison for racketeering or money laundering. But Marco's murder? That was the one thing that could bring his whole organization down. The one crime that could unite every family in New York against him. So you took his money, Olivia said, her voice breaking. You protected Marco's killer to line your own pockets. I protected the city. Richard snapped, whirling on her. You have no idea what would have happened if that information had gone public. Gang war. Bodies in the streets. Innocent people caught in the crossfire. I made a choice, a hard choice, to maintain stability. You made a choice to betray everything you stood for, she shot back. And then you kept taking the money. Even after Sal was dead. Even after the threat was gone. Vincent's been paying you for 6 years, Dad. 6 years of continued corruption. Don't you dare try to justify that as protecting the city. Vincent's mind was reeling, trying to process everything, trying to fit the pieces together. But one thing stood out, sharp and clear as broken glass. If Sal ordered the hit 13 years ago, and he's been dead for 8 years, then who the hell have I been paying off for the last 6? Silence. Richard and Olivia both stared at him. What are you talking about? Richard asked slowly. The payments to your offshore accounts. They started 6 years ago, yeah? Right around the time you were appointed to the appeals court. Vincent's eyes narrowed. But I never authorized those payments. I thought you were on someone else's payroll, maybe the Russos or the Borellis. I've been trying to figure out who had you in their pocket. The color drained from Richard's face. If you didn't authorize the payments? Olivia's hands started shaking harder. Then who did? That's when Vincent heard it. A sound that shouldn't be there. The distinctive click of a hammer being cocked. He spun around, reaching for his gun, but he was already too late. The hidden panel in the wall, the one that led to the service elevator, slid open. And standing in the doorway, holding a Glock 19 with a suppressor attached, was the last person Vincent expected to see. His underboss. His right hand. His most trusted soldier for the last decade. Marcus the Saint D'Angelo. Sorry boss, Marcus said, and he actually looked apologetic. But this has gone far enough. Vincent's gun was halfway out of his holster when Marcus fired. The shot was silent except for the soft thwip of the suppressor. Vincent felt the bullet tear through his shoulder, spinning him around, dropping him to one knee. Blood bloomed across his white shirt like a crimson flower. Olivia screamed. Richard lunged for Marcus, but the underboss was faster. He brought the gun around and fired again, catching the judge in the leg. Richard went down hard, crying out in pain. Don't move, Marcus said calmly, keeping the gun trained on Vincent. Either of you. I don't want to kill you, but I will if I have to. Vincent pressed his hand against the bullet wound, blood seeping between his fingers, his vision swimming. Why? Because you're getting soft, Vin. Letting the judge's daughter waltz in here, kissing her like some lovesick teenager, making deals behind the family's back. The guys are talking. They're saying you've lost your edge. That you're compromised. So you've been stealing from me. Setting up payments to Castellano under my name. Making it look like I've been dirty this whole time. Insurance? Marcus said with a shrug. If you ever figured out what I was doing, if you ever came after me, I'd have evidence that you were the one paying off judges. I'd have leverage. But then this one," he nodded toward Olivia, "had to go playing detective. Had to uncover the whole operation. Now there's evidence. Witnesses. Loose ends." "You killed Marco," Vincent said suddenly, the realization hitting him like another bullet. "Not Sal. You." Marcus smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Sal gave the order, but I was the one who pulled the trigger. I was just a kid back then trying to make my bones, prove myself to the family. Killing the great Marco Vitali? That was my ticket to the big leagues." He tilted his head, studying Vincent like a bug under a microscope. "And you know what's funny? You promoted me. Made me your underboss. Put me right next to you, and you never knew you were sleeping next to your brother's killer all this time." Vincent's world was red. Red from the blood, red from the rage, red from 13 years of grief and betrayal and absolute, soul-crushing pain. He tried to stand, tried to reach for Marcus, but his shoulder wouldn't cooperate and he fell back down. Marcus raised the gun, aiming between Vincent's eyes. "I really am sorry, boss. You were good to me. But business is business. And you've become bad for business." That's when Olivia moved. She didn't think, didn't hesitate. She just launched herself at Marcus, that USB drive still clutched in her hand, and swung it at his face like a weapon. It wasn't much, just a small piece of plastic and metal, but the edge caught him right across the temple, hard enough to make him stagger. The gun went off. The bullet buried itself in the ceiling. Plaster rained down. And Vincent, summoning every ounce of strength he had left, pushed himself up and charged. He hit Marcus like a freight train, both of them crashing into the wall. The gun skittered across the floor. They grappled, throwing punches, each one desperate and savage. Vincent was wounded, bleeding, but he was also fueled by 13 years of unspent rage, and that counted for something. Marcus got his hands around Vincent's throat, squeezing. "Should have killed you too. Should have finished the job back then." Vincent's vision darkened. His lungs burned. And then, crack. Marcus's grip went slack. His eyes rolled back, and he crumpled to the floor. Olivia stood behind him, holding a heavy crystal award from Vincent's shelf, some meaningless plaque from the Chamber of Commerce. Her chest heaving, her eyes wide with shock at what she'd just done. Vincent gasped for air, his hand going back to his shoulder wound. Blood was everywhere. Too much blood. Richard was pulling himself toward the door, leaving a trail of red across the marble. I need to call for help." "No." Vincent's voice was rough. "No cops. Not yet. You're insane. You've been shot. I've been shot. Marcus was stealing from me, framing me, and he killed my brother." Vincent looked down at the unconscious underboss, and for a second, just a second, he wanted to pick up that gun and empty the entire clip into the bastard's face. But he didn't. He's worth more alive. He can testify. About the corruption, about the murders, about all of it. Olivia dropped the crystal award and it shattered on the floor. She stood there, shaking, staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. I almost killed him." "You saved my life," Vincent said. She looked at him then. Really looked at him. At this bleeding, broken mob boss who'd kissed her like she was the last good thing in a world gone rotten. At this man who just had his entire world torn apart and was still trying to hold the pieces together. "What happens now?" she whispered. Vincent tried to smile, but it came out more like a grimace. Now we figure out how to stay alive long enough to see tomorrow." Vincent's penthouse had never felt smaller. The walls seemed to close in as Olivia helped him into his desk chair, her hands gentle but shaking as she pressed a silk handkerchief against his shoulder wound. The bleeding had slowed but not stopped. His shirt was ruined, his suit jacket somewhere on the floor in a heap of expensive fabric and fresh blood. Richard had managed to drag himself to the leather couch, his leg wound worse than he wanted to admit. He tied his belt around his thigh as a makeshift tourniquet, his face pale and sweating. And Marcus lay unconscious on the floor, zip-tied with the plastic restraints Vincent always kept in his desk drawer. You never knew when you'd need to secure someone in a hurry. "We need a doctor," Olivia said, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Both of you. Right now." "I have a guy," Vincent managed each word in effort. "Doc Martinez. He owes me. Doesn't ask questions. Can you call him?" "Phone's in my jacket pocket. Password 0815. Marco's birthday." She found the phone, unlocked it, and scrolled through his contacts until she found document. Her fingers hovered over the call button. "Vincent, If I do this, if we bring in your doctor instead of going to a hospital, we're crossing a line. We're covering this up. We're becoming accomplices too. To what? Vincent looked up at her, his dark eyes steady despite the pain. To self-defense? Marcus tried to kill us. All three of us. Your father's a witness. You're a witness. Hell, there's probably security footage of the whole damn thing. But you're you. And I'm me. And when the media finds out that Judge Castellano's daughter was in a mob boss's office when shots were fired, then we tell the truth, Richard said from the couch. His voice was strained but clear. Or at least, a version of it. Both Vincent and Olivia turned to look at him. Richard wiped the sweat from his forehead with his sleeve. I came here tonight because my daughter called me in distress. She'd been attacked by one of Moretti's men, Tommy Rizzo, and fled here seeking protection. When I arrived with police backup, we discovered that Moretti's underboss, Marcus D'Angelo, had been embezzling from the organization and attempted to eliminate everyone who knew about it. He paused, wincing. That story works. It's mostly true. And it doesn't expose any of the deeper complications. The offshore accounts, Olivia said flatly. The bribes. The corruption. You want to bury all of that. I want to protect my daughter, Richard snapped, then softened. Olivia, if that USB drive goes public, it doesn't just destroy me. It destroys you too. You're an accessory now. You withheld evidence, broke into my office, confronted a mob boss on your own. The Bar Association would never let you practice law. Every prosecutor in the state would come after you for obstruction of justice. He's right, Vincent said quietly. The second that drive hits daylight, you're finished. Olivia looked between them, her father, broken and bloodied on the couch, and Vincent, the man who'd kissed her like she was oxygen itself, now bleeding from a bullet wound because she dragged him into her crusade for truth. The weight of it all crashed down on her shoulders. The choices, the consequences, the impossible position she'd put herself in. So what? She said, her voice cracking. We just pretend none of this happened? Go back to our lives like nothing changed? No, Vincent said. Everything's changed. But we're the only three people in this room who know the full story. We get to decide what version the world hears. She wanted to argue. Wanted to rail against the injustice of it all, the corruption, the lies. But she was so tired. Bone-deep, soul-crushing tired. And there was blood on her hands, Marcus's blood, and she didn't know if she could survive carrying any more weight. Make the call, she said finally, holding out Vincent's phone. Get your doctor here. And then we figure out the rest. Vincent took the phone and dialed. Doc? Yeah, it's me. I need you at the penthouse. Now. Gunshot wounds, 2 of them. And bring your kit, the serious one. He paused, listening. I don't care what you're doing. You know what I pay you for. Get here in 20 minutes or don't bother coming at all. He hung up and let his head fall back against the chair. He'll be here. In the meantime, we need to deal with Sleeping Beauty over there. He nodded toward Marcus, who was starting to stir, groaning softly. What are you going to do with him? Olivia asked, and part of her didn't want to know the answer. That depends. Vincent's eyes went cold, and for a second she saw the Reaper everyone feared. Marcus knows everything. Every deal, every payment, every body buried in every harbor from here to Jersey. If he talks, to the feds, to the media, to anyone, we're all going down. Your father, me, half the NYPD, 3/4 of the city council. So you're going to kill him. It wasn't a question. I should, Vincent admitted. The smart play? Put a bullet in his head, dissolve the body in acid, scatter the remains across 5 states. Problem solved. But he killed my brother. And I want him to pay for that. Really pay. Not just with a quick death in my office. I want him to suffer every single day for the rest of his miserable life, knowing he lost, knowing I won, knowing that Marco's death wasn't the end of me, it was the beginning. Richard shifted on the couch. You want to make a deal. I want to make the deal. Marcus testifies against everyone above him in the old Calabrese organization. Names, provides evidence, burns every bridge. In exchange, he gets life in prison instead of a shallow grave. He lives, but he lives in a cage, watching his empire crumble from behind bars. And the information about me? Richard asked carefully. About the bribes? That stays buried. For now. Vincent's gaze shifted to Olivia. As long as your daughter agrees. Olivia felt the weight of that choice settle on her chest like a stone. Let her father's corruption stay hidden, let justice remain perverted, let the system she believed in her whole life continue to rot from the inside. Or expose everything, destroy her father, destroy herself, and watch the whole city tear itself apart in the aftermath. Some choices weren't between right and wrong. They were between bad and worse. I need a condition, she said finally. Name it. You stop. All of it. The bribes, the corruption, the murder. You find a way to go legitimate or as legitimate as someone like you can get. I'm not asking you to become a saint. But I'm asking you to stop making my father dirty. Vincent studied her for a long moment. You're asking me to change my entire business model. I'm asking you to prove you're more than what Marco's death made you. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain maybe. Or recognition. And if I say no? Then I walk out that door right now and take the USB drive to the FBI. And whatever happens after that happens. Silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. Richard watched them both, his expression unreadable. Marcus groaned again on the floor, consciousness slowly returning. Finally Vincent nodded. Okay. I'll work on going clean. Transition the operations, invest in legitimate businesses, phase out the criminal side. It won't happen overnight, that's not how this works, but I'll start the process. He held her gaze. For you. Those two words hung in the air like a promise. Or a threat. Olivia wasn't sure which. Before she could respond, the elevator chimed. Vincent's hand went to his gun, but then a voice called out, "Don't shoot, Vin. It's just me." Doc Martinez stepped into the office, a short, stocky man in his 60s carrying a leather medical bag that had seen better days. He took one look at the scene, the blood, the bodies, the judge bleeding on the couch, and just sighed. Madonna. You know I charge extra for crime scenes, right? Just patch us up, document. Yeah. You, he pointed at Olivia, apply pressure here while I prep. And you, pointing at Richard, don't move that leg or you'll bleed out before I can get to you. For the next 45 minutes, Doc Martinez worked in focused silence, extracting Vincent's bullet, stitching up Richard's leg, administering antibiotics and painkillers. Marcus woke up halfway through, groggy and confused, and when he saw Vincent sitting there watching him with dead eyes, the color drained from his face. Boss, Save it, Vincent said coldly. You're going to tell the feds everything. Every deal, every murder, every dirty dollar. You're going to burn the Calabrese legacy to the ground. And in exchange, you get to live in a maximum security cell for the rest of your pathetic life. That's the deal. Take it or I put you in the ground right now. Marcus looked at the gun on Vincent's lap, at the ice in his former boss's eyes, and nodded slowly. I'll take it. Smart choice. By the time Doc Martinez packed up his supplies and left, paid in cash as always, the sun was starting to rise over Manhattan. Golden light spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the blood-stained office in shades of amber and rose. It should have been beautiful. Instead it just looked tired. Richard stood up carefully, testing his weight on his injured leg. I need to get home. Clean up. Figure out how to explain this to... He stopped, looking at Olivia. To your mother. To the press. To everyone. Stick to the story we agreed on, Vincent said. You came here to rescue your daughter from a rogue mobster. You're a hero, Castellano. Lean into that. Richard nodded, limping toward the elevator. But at the door, he paused and looked back at his daughter. Liv, I know I've lost your respect. Probably lost your trust too. And I don't know if I'll ever get it back. But I hope someday you'll understand that everything I did, the choices I made, the compromises, I did them thinking I was protecting people. Protecting you. Dad, Olivia said softly, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. He flinched like she'd slapped him, then nodded. Yeah, I guess it is. The elevator doors closed and he was gone. Olivia stood there in the golden morning light, covered in dried blood, exhausted beyond words, and feeling like her entire world had been dismantled and rebuilt into something she no longer recognized. Vincent watched her from his chair, his shoulder bandaged, his face pale but alert. You should go too, he said. Get cleaned up. Get some rest. Process all of this. What about you? I'll be fine. I've survived worse. Have you? She crossed to him, stopping just close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Because it seems like tonight you lost everything. Your underboss betrayed you. Your brother's killer is going to prison instead of getting the death you probably think he deserves. And you just agreed to dismantle the empire you spent 15 years building. I didn't lose everything, Vincent said quietly. His hand reached up, fingers brushing against her cheek, just like they had before the world exploded. I found something I didn't know I was looking for. What's that? A reason to be someone different. She wanted to kiss him again. Wanted to fall into those arms and pretend that everything would be okay, that they could somehow make this impossible situation work. But she was also the judge's daughter, and he was still the reaper, and the distance between those two identities was measured in bodies and blood money and broken laws. "This can't work," she whispered. "You know that, right? We're from different worlds. What happened tonight? It was survival, adrenaline, desperation. But in the daylight? In the real world. I know." His thumb traced her jawline. "But that doesn't change what I feel." "And what do you feel, Vincent Moretti?" He smiled then, a real smile, sad and small and honest. "Like maybe there's a part of me that didn't die with Marco after all." Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "I need time. To think. To figure out who I am after tonight. To decide if I can live with the choices we made. Take all the time you need. I'll be here." She stepped back, his hand falling away from her face, and it felt like ripping off a bandage, painful, necessary, leaving raw skin underneath. "What about Marcus? The deal? I'll handle it. By tomorrow night, he'll be in FBI custody with a full confession. Your father's name won't come up. Neither will yours. And the USB drive?" Vincent looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw the question in his eyes. The test. She still had it, that little piece of plastic that contained enough evidence to destroy them all. She could walk out of here and do whatever she wanted with it. Slowly, deliberately, she pulled the drive from her pocket and placed it on his desk. "Insurance," she said. "For both of us. You keep it safe. And if either one of us breaks the deal we made tonight, if you go back on your word about going legitimate, or if my father slides back into corruption, then that drive sees the light of day. Deal?" Vincent picked up the drive, holding it between his fingers like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Deal." She turned toward the elevator, her hand on the call button, when his voice stopped her. "Olivia." She looked back. "That thing you said earlier about me becoming someone different, about being more than what Marco's death made me. You really believe that's possible?" She thought about it. About the kiss. About the way he'd protected her even when it cost him everything. About the choice he'd made to let Marcus live, to pursue justice instead of revenge. About the man underneath the monster. "Yeah," she said finally. "I think maybe it is." The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside, pressed the button for the lobby, and watched Vincent's face as the doors slid closed between them. 3 months later. Olivia sat in her new office at the Manhattan District Attorney's building, reviewing case files for an upcoming trial. She'd been promoted, youngest ADA in the office, after her harrowing experience with the mob had made national headlines. Her father had resigned from the bench, citing health concerns, and was now teaching constitutional law at Columbia. They had dinner every Sunday. Didn't talk about that night. Probably never would. Her desk phone rang. "Castellano," she answered. "You need to turn on the news. Channel 7. Right now." The voice was familiar. "Be careful. Vincent." She hadn't spoken to him since that morning. Hadn't seen him, hadn't called, hadn't even driven past his building. They'd made a choice to stay apart, let the dust settle, see if the feelings were real or just trauma bonding. But she recognized his voice instantly. She grabbed the remote and turned on the small TV in her office. The news anchor's face filled the screen, serious and concerned. "Breaking news tonight. Former underboss Marcus D'Angelo was found dead in his federal holding cell this morning. Authorities are calling it an apparent suicide, but sources close to the investigation say there are inconsistencies with that theory. D'Angelo was scheduled to testify next week in what prosecutors called the biggest organized crime case in New York history." The remote slipped from Olivia's fingers. No. "I didn't do it," Vincent's voice said through the phone. "I swear to God, Olivia, I didn't touch him. Someone else wanted him dead. Someone who had more to lose than I did." "Who?" "That's what I need your help figuring out. Because whoever killed Marcus, they know everything. About your father, about the drive, about all of it. And I think," he paused and she could hear the fear in his voice, "I think you're next." Behind her, the office door opened. She spun around and the face she saw made her blood run cold. "Hello, Olivia," said the man she'd never expected to see again. The man whose photo she'd seen in her father's locked files. The man who'd been dead for 3 years according to every official record. Marco Vitali smiled at her. "Vincent's dead brother. Very much alive. We need to talk about that USB drive." The phone slipped from her hand, Vincent's voice calling her name as it clattered to the floor. And Olivia realized the story was far from over. It had only just begun.